Catch a person off guard during a high-pressure moment, and you might see a flash of irritation. Within half a second, that expression is typically buried beneath an agreeable smile, a practice performance that most people maintain as long as they feel comfortable. This role-playing is built into our nature. We learn early to conceal our vulnerabilities to fit in. As Robert Breen notes, we are all actors on a stage, wearing social masks to protect our true feelings and navigate our environment. Mistaking this performance for reality leaves a person vulnerable to manipulation. Rehearsed words are designed to mislead, but a sudden spike in emotion can bypass these social filters and expose a person's raw character in an instant. Human interaction has two levels: the polite, logical front and the chaotic inner core of repressed desires beneath it. To hide deep insecurity, individuals often overcompensate, projecting an outward image of extreme confidence to the world. These hidden states leak through what negotiators call the trinity of words, music, and dance. While the words follow a script, the tone of voice and involuntary body language reveal the person's actual emotional state. Most social conflicts are lost because the listener fixates on verbal claims. They accept the presenting behavior as truth, entirely missing the nonverbal music that signals a person's true intentions. Take the case of a professional navigating a relationship with a highly charismatic colleague. On the surface, this colleague is the office favorite, always ready to collaborate and seemingly invested in everyone's success. But charisma is often a tool for control. Highly narcissistic types use a form of mimicked empathy to draw targets in. They listen with deep, focused attention, specifically to discover psychological weaknesses they can later use to manage the relationship. Once they have identified those vulnerabilities, the unspoken warfare begins. It registers in passive-aggressive compliments, deliberate delays in communication, and a rigid tightening of the jaw whenever their peer receives public recognition. This erratic behavior is driven by the shadow, the collection of repressed insecurities and envious impulses that stay hidden during times of peace. These unfulfilled needs from the past sink into the unconscious, waiting to surface in manipulative ways under stress. The manufactured charm exists to keep others off balance. By alternating between warmth and sudden coldness, the manipulator creates an environment of insecurity that ensures they remain the center of attention and control. The most effective counter-strategy is purely observational. Instead of offering an emotional reaction, the professional maintains a strategic silence. They provide no feedback, leaving the manipulator with nothing to feed upon. This lack of reaction creates unbearable pressure on the manipulator's ego. Because they rely on the responses of others to feel powerful, your silence creates a psychological vacuum they are unprepared to fill. To regain control, the colleague escalates their behavior. They reach a trigger point where the stress of being ignored becomes too great to manage. At this moment, their carefully constructed social mask finally shatters. The result is a public outburst. The colleague snaps over a trivial detail, revealing a paranoid and defensive nature that was previously hidden. By refusing to engage in the drama, the professional allows the manipulator to expose themselves. When an ego is starved of the attention it craves, the repressed shadow will eventually override the social mask. The manipulator's own lack of control becomes the very thing that neutralizes their influence. This breakdown demonstrates a specific vulnerability seen in highly narcissistic personalities. Their sense of self is so fragile that even a brief period of being ignored feels like a direct threat to their existence. People dependent on external validation follow a predictable cycle. When they lack validation, internal anxiety spikes, projecting outward as aggression. The professional exploited this loop by withholding a reaction, forcing the manipulator to deal with their own rising pressure until they reached a breaking point. As we've seen, observation is more powerful than reaction. By detaching yourself from the immediate emotional stakes of a conflict, you allow your opponent's unchecked impulses to do the work of undermining their own position. Mastering this perspective provides a clear advantage in social environments. You move through interactions by identifying the invisible games others are forced to play, rather than being swept up in them. Your level of emotional control determines your standing in the silent hierarchy of any relationship. The person who is less dependent on the approval of others inherently possesses the most leverage. Human nature remains hidden behind a polite front during times of ease, but as the case study shows, emotion exposes what comfort conceals. The second a situation becomes stressful, the truth of a person's character is illuminated. Strategic silence offers leverage over those ruled by their immediate feelings. It is a fundamental refusal to be managed by another person's drama. Strong individuals manage the same internal storms of anger, fear, and envy as everyone else. They simply retain their composure under pressure, refusing to surrender their power by losing control of their image.